Hey everybody, hope you're doing well. Welcome into our college football preview show today. Matt Wright will be by shortly. Just wanted to hop on a little earlier than I told him so we could get into a few things with all of you. Before we get the lead in today, it's a college football show. If you don't watch college football, you should. It's a lot of fun. It'll take up every Saturday that you have. So if you don't want to have plans, you don't want to have a social life, don't want to get a whole lot of sunlight after 1 p.m. Atlantic, then college football is for you. And it's the best. I love it. I'm so stoked that it's back tonight, actually. We got Utah and Florida this evening with Cam Rising out for the Utes. But Florida's got a new quarterback. I'll talk about that with Matt Wright. But that's on tonight. Also, Nebraska with new head coach Luke Fickell playing Minnesota and everything that's happening with PJ Fleck and that program. But a lot's happened with college football. A lot's changed over the last little while. If you're not familiar with the sport, it's just a little, and this is, I'm not trying to make you guys sound stupid. This is just a primer. For hundreds of years, quote unquote student athletes did not get paid to play college sports. And it was the dumbest thing ever. The NCAA is one of the most corrupt organizations in human history. That's not hyperbole, that's a fact. But they've been saying we're going to give you a free education and this is what you come here for. We're not going to pay you a dime. But even when you get to the NFL and your body's broken down because you have to play 3 years, you have to play 3 years of college football before you go to the NFL, unlike basketball where you can play one, and a far less grueling sport than football. We're not going to pay anything. Oh, and if you do get even a little bit of pay while you're at school, we'll suspend you. We'll take you out. We'll probe. We'll take away things. If you didn't watch the Johnny Manziel documentary, he was signing autographs for money. He was going to be suspended by the NCAA. He got suspended for a half because they found some evidence, but not enough evidence because, oddly enough, Johnny Manziel and his partner in crime, who was the same age as him, were actually smarter than the NCAA. It's not that much. It's not that hard to be smarter than NCAA, but you get the gist. So the NCAA is a corrupt, horrible organization. Used to not be able to transfer. Used to go to school and somebody would tell you, hey, we love you. They go talk to your mother and father, sit down in the living room and say, we're gonna make a man out of your young boy right now. Come to our program. You're gonna play football. You're gonna get the right rules and the way to live and the correct morals. And it was all a bunch of lies. It was all a bunch of crap. And you get to a school and say you didn't play. Then if you wanted to transfer, you had to sit out an entire season. Baker Mayfield did this, Kyler Murray had to do this, but it's a new day in college football. There's this thing called the transfer portal now. This got voted down. You can transfer whenever you want. You're a player. Now, there are negatives to this. Players are transferring every year. Players are playing 5 years in college at 5 different schools, looking for playing time. And of course, there's negatives to everything, but I'll tell you, players having rights, players having the ability to make their own decision is something that I'm very much behind, and I'm never going to take the opinion of the NCAA. So all in all, it's a good thing. So that's happening in college football. So you have players transferring, you have players now have the ability to make money with this thing called name, image, and likeness, which basically means that schools have started their own endowment, if you will, their own. You go to a university and you go there and there's the registrar's office and you can go and you can help people with classes. Now you can go to a spot on campus where it's name, image, and likeness. and you can go talk to an aide, talk to somebody, and they help you get money, basically. The schools are not giving the players money because they don't want the players to be employees. It's still this big hoopla. But what they do is they get boosters, they get local companies to send money to the school, which then they pay the players. And this is not just quarterbacks, offensive linemen are getting money. Will Levis got a lifetime, former quarterback of Kentucky, got a lifetime deal with Hellman's or Hellman's. Is that the mayonnaise? I hate mayonnaise, one of my least favorite things ever. But he puts mayonnaise in his coffee. Went viral last year that he loves mayonnaise in his coffee. He's got a lifetime deal with that brand, whatever the hell it is. Hellman's. I think that's what it is. So he's making money. Bryce Young was working with Mercedes. He's got a Mercedes on the campus of Alabama. He made over $1 million last year in name, image, and likeness. So the ways of the past are changing. College football was the same for a long time. It is no longer the same. Changes galore, changes year after year. And what's happening now is teams are moving across the board. There used to be conferences. We have our SEC conference, teams from the South, Alabama, Ole Miss, Auburn, Texas A&M for some reason because they were a big enough program that they didn't get Texas into the SEC originally. But you have all these teams from the South, Florida, Tennessee. You know what I'm talking about. That's a conference. The Big Ten. You got Ohio State, you got Michigan, Penn State, Rutgers, Northwestern. Better and a more academic program, but not so academic. How about the Pac-12? You got UCLA, USC, Washington, Oregon, teams that play late at night. A conference that is the West Coast Conference, basically the Pac-12. The Big 12, which is West Virginia and Texas. And so forever, these were the conferences. This is how the sports worked. You play teams in your conference, majority of your games, 8 to 9 of your 12 games are in your conference. You play the teams in your division. You win your division. You play the team, and there's an East and West division in each conference. You play the opposition in your conference title game. For instance, Michigan and Ohio State have always been the best teams in the Big Ten. They play each other. They're in the same division, so only one can play in the Big Ten title game. They meet Iowa or Northwestern on the other side of the bracket. And that's how it's worked forever. You play your non-conference games. You see USC and Notre Dame. They've had a rivalry forever. Not in the same conference. Notre Dame isn't in a conference. But they have that battle between each other. They have that history. Florida and Utah are playing this year for the second time in 2 years. Again, SEC and a Pac-12 schools, but again, you schedule these games, helps your television revenue, helps you get into the college football playoff. Alabama and Texas met last year. They'll meet again this year in week 2. So this is all understood. This is the way college football worked. And it's changing. It's really changing. Beyond just the economics, beyond just players can make money and you don't have to put it in a McDonald's bag to hide it from somebody, teams are going on fuego. The conferences are blowing up in front of our eyes. And right now, it's a race for dollars. It's a race for television revenue. It's how can we get the schools that are popular and competitive and put them in our conference. It does not matter whether they are close to us, whether it's a 10-hour flight, whether we'll play on an opposite time zone, because fuck the kids. We just need to get the best product available. And you're seeing it right now where these big programs, such as the SEC and the Big Ten, they're the two biggest conferences, and they have television deals that make them a lot of money. The SEC is partnered with both the mothership at ESPN, and they also have a slight partnership with Fox. The Big Ten has a new partnership with NBC, and they also have a partnership with the mothership. So there's all different ways, and you're stacking up. Who can we get on? And what ESPN, what Fox, what NBC are doing, CBS, to look around saying, who can we get on our station? Telling the TV people, you're going to get Rutgers, Indiana. Nobody wants that game. Nobody's paying big money for that product. So what the SEC and what the Big Ten realized is, okay, we can't ask Rutgers to leave our conference because they're paying money to be here and they have their dues and everything. But what if we invite other programs to join us? What if we look around and say, well, what if we had USC playing Rutgers in the game? What if we could get every year USC playing Ohio State or USC playing Michigan? Well, that's interesting. Two of the biggest programs in college football, two of the programs with the most lineage, national champions, Heisman Trophy winners, Matt Leinart, Reggie Bush. You have all these guys, Carson Palmer, all these guys that you remember. And that is what's happening. It's a fight to see who can get the biggest names, the biggest products. So, Matt Wright's going to join us here soon, so I don't want to get too far into the weeds because I know he'll have thoughts on this. But the SEC, which has Alabama, as I said, and just to put some reference, Alabama, Ole Miss, a big program. Auburn has always been a big program. Georgia, two-time national champions, 2 years in a row, the Georgia Bulldogs. Tennessee, becoming more and more of a program. So thinking of this conference, a pretty good conference already, they have taken from the Big 12 conference Oklahoma and Texas. The two biggest brands in the Big 12 are coming to the SEC. And what I will say about the SEC is these two make sense. They are close proximity to these other teams. They're not that long of flights. Texas A&M already plays in the Southeastern Conference. And looking at it, Texas might be the biggest program in college football. And the reason I tell you that, well, Texas is the biggest state for college football. And this is the reason I tell you that. Texas A&M's coach, Jimbo Fisher, is the highest paid coach in college football. He makes over $11 million a year to coach. He makes more than Saban, reportedly. I think Saban got augmented, but I still think Jimbo Fisher, it's in his contract, he has to be one of the highest paid guys. So he makes the most money in college football. University of Texas hasn't been relevant in a while. However, remember Vince Young? Even if you didn't follow it, Texas has been a huge program. Bijan Robinson was the best running back in the nation. He just went ninth in the NFL draft from the University of Texas. Arch Manning, if that last name sounds familiar, it's because it is. The nephew of Peyton and Eli Manning is playing at Texas. He's the backup quarterback this year behind Quinn Ewers. Texas has one of the highest gates when it comes to television revenue and also when it comes to ticket sales, TV, everything. They just do it all. The boosters Nobody gets more money than Texas. They just had one of their best recruiting classes in some time. So they're a big deal. Oklahoma, 3 of the last 5 years had Heisman Trophy winners. Baker Mayfield, Kyler Murray, Jalen Hurts was a finalist. So what's happening with this conference is you're bringing smart players to the fold. And I see Ryder's coming in, so bring him in. Great to have him back. Good to see him. It's been a minute. Matt Wright, Ryder, how are you?
Good, Noah. Good. Thanks for having me on. Hope you've had a good summer, buddy, and looking forward. This week's great because we really feel like we're getting into the sports season coming up. So I'm really excited for what the next 6 months of sports hold.
Absolutely. Before we get into college, kind of give me and the audience an update on what you've been doing this summer with Champions and professionally, what's been going on with yourself.
Yeah, so we've had a busy summer. We've been running camps all summer. We're kind of done our summer now, and we're running what's called prep camps. So just a lot of different ice times to get kids ready for the upcoming season. So we have every night in Miramichi and Fredericton running 2 sheets, and then starting next week we go to 3 sheets a night. So we're keeping very busy right now. But yeah, it was a good summer. Got to spend a lot of time at the rink, and then it felt like it was raining every day I was not at the rink. So it was a lot of rain this summer. But other than that, I got a new puppy. I got a yellow lab 3 weeks ago named Ranger after the New York Rangers. So he's been a handful. So he's been keeping me busy here lately. But no, just looking forward to getting started up with our prep school team again. We have a welcome weekend on Saturday, and a lot of guys are at junior A camps, a couple guys still at Q camps. Most guys will be returning this weekend or early next week. And then we start right up into practices on Wednesday. So it's kind of a flip the switch from Champions hockey development, where we're in the summer, it's mostly on ice run and development, to now kind of going back to my more coaching with the older ages with our prep school team. So it's a good transition going from spring and summer, where it's mostly development with the kids, to switching to now back with the prep school team in the fall.
Nice. Well, that's good to hear, and I'm glad. I saw you went to a Red Sox game too, so I'm glad they gave you some time off because I know they work you pretty hard. So I know you love it, but it's good to see you get some time off as well. I was just talking about Oklahoma, or talking about teams moving. Obviously, the transfer of teams and the conferences. So just as a whole, do you like what's happening to college football as an avid college football fan?
Well, I think you know what I'm going to say to this, and to me, I hate it. I just feel bad for these other conferences that have put so much time and effort and work and money and everything over the past 20, 30, 50 years, to now feel like, especially the Pac-12, like just to get ripped to shreds. In fairness, the guy running the Pac-12 didn't do them any favors either. So I mean, he kind of really, not great there. But I hate it because it takes away from why people watch college football. To me, is not just the Power Five, but it's everyone, and it's you want to be able to watch every conference and be like, oh, hey, this is exciting football. And I feel like we're getting away from that. And I feel like it's, especially now with the NIL money, people feel like they have to go to these big schools to get paid.
Right.
And I think obviously, yeah, don't get me wrong. There's still going to be there's going to be some powerhouses. There's going to be, it's going to be top heavy even more than we've seen in the past, where, yeah, the Big 12 is getting better. The Big 10 is getting better because of this. But overall, I don't like it, especially because now I think some schools that we've seen normally on TV now aren't even going to get TV deals that we can watch them. Like, to me, you're hearing that some of these conferences aren't even going to be able to get on TV now. So I don't know how I feel. I'm not a big fan of it. I really do dislike it for the overall feel of football. It doesn't feel like it's kind of a national game anymore down there.
Right.
But I guess we won't really know until I'd say 2 years to really know how it's going to shake down. I think it's going to take a couple years for all the transferring to kind of finalize, for us to see, exactly how it's going to work and exactly if it makes for better football and makes for a better product or not. So I guess maybe follow up with me in, 2 years on this, I might have a different feeling. But right now, I'm not a big fan of it.
I find the Big Ten the more egregious of the SEC in the Big Ten when taking schools, because seeing Oregon and Washington, UCLA and USC playing against, as appetizing it is to see them play Michigan every year, that's not good for the players. You know yourself, you do a lot of traveling. Flying out to Los Angeles every other weekend, and yet they're supposed to go to school. That's what we're
Yeah.
told. I mean, it's ridiculous to even think about it, that you're basically an NFL player if that's your schedule. It's one thing to go to Rutgers, it's another thing to go to, SC and then go to Oregon the next week.
Yeah, it's taking away from, it shows even more that it's athlete student and not student athlete.
Yeah.
And the other thing too, like, yeah, it's one thing for football and basketball, but I think it's going to be across the board with the moving. What about these smaller programs in the sense of like lacrosse and
Right.
and
Volleyball.
field hockey and whatever,
Right.
having for them to travel across country where the money just isn't there compared to the football and basketball. It's going to be a trickle down effect that, yeah, it may be beneficial for your top programs, your highest earning sports, but there's a lot of sports in college sports. It's not just football and basketball. And I
Yeah.
think we're going to see a lot of issues with some of these other smaller sports, not smaller in sense, not as important, but smaller in the money sense. I think it's going to be very interesting to see what happens with them.
And then you have the ACC, which is crumbling because they are signed to a TV deal through 2037, and the Atlantic Coast Conference is recruiting I can't even say it out loud, Cal and Stanford to come to their, like, it doesn't even make sense, Matt. Like, it's
No.
those two things. Miami, the U playing Stanford. I mean, what's going on here?
Yeah, it's. I always found it funny as a kid. I could never wrap my head around in the MLB how the New York Mets were in one division, the Yankees were in the other, and
Yeah,
then
and
in
NL and AL, like, makes no
AL.
sense.
So now it's getting even way more egregious in college sports. Like you said, how can you have an Atlantic conference with teams on California playing? Like,
Right.
how are kids supposed to figure things out? Like, they're going to be asking their parents, like, what the hell is this? Like, why is California playing in Florida State or whatever it may be? It doesn't make any sense. And like I said, I think it's going to take a couple years for us to really see the true
Mhm.
effects of how this is going to shake down. But I love the Pac-12, and I know you do too.
Yeah,
They call it like the late night game on a Saturday night, the 11 p.m. game, and
nothing
it's just
better.
disheartening. It's disheartening to see that now even it's going to be even tougher for these smaller conferences to make it to the grand stage. It sucks for that. Like, I don't like that at all.
So, as a big Notre Dame fan, what do you want them to do? Do you want them to remain independent, or do you want them to join a conference?
Well, I think the allure for them of being independent is always something they like being
Mhm.
independent. I think, financially, would it make more sense probably to partner up with, the Big 12 or the Big 10 or, they do seem to play a lot of ACC schools in their schedule. So I don't know if becoming a full-time member of the ACC, that would probably be the most likely thing. But if they do that, it's probably going to hurt it's going to hurt their ranking by just joining that conference compared to being, away from everything. And let's not forget that they still have a really nice TV deal with NBC.
Yeah.
So they don't need to join anyone because NBC broadcasts them every week. Like we saw it last week on TV. We're going to see it again this week. Like, NBC loves Notre Dame. Like, they have a great relationship there. So to me, there's not a lot of pressure for them to join someone. So I think they wait it out and they just kind of keep everyone thinking what they're going to do. And they have a good team this year. No, knock on wood. We'll see. But
They do.
they finally have a quarterback, so that's nice. But we're gonna see what they do this year. But to me, I think for at least for the next couple of years, you see them kind of hold pat and be open market, right? Go show up to the bar and they're single.
Right. And the fact that it's a 12-team playoff, it doesn't make it feel like they have to join a conference, because it's the 12 best teams, and if they have one of the best records, they're going to be in the top 12. The Notre Dame allure itself, sells itself.
Yeah, definitely. Like you said, with the addition of more teams coming into the playoff, which will be another thing we'll have to see
Yeah.
how this shakes down and how rankings. It'll be very interesting to see after about week 3 or 4, what the rankings look like and how many 3-1 teams are ranked in the top 8 compared to 4, or maybe even week 6. Take it all the way to week six, where we have teams that are 4-2 and other teams that are 6-0, depending on conferences where they're ranked. That's going to become really interesting to see.
So beyond that transferring, you said you got a new quarterback at Notre Dame, Sam Hartman, same age as me, 24, still in college, transferring from Wake. Of all the transfers of the biggest names, which one interests you the most going into this season?
Well, for me, it's Hartman just because it's my team. It's the team
Right.
I want. And it's what we've been talking about since I got on this podcast a few years ago. Is Notre Dame's never had a quarterback. I mean, we could argue that Ian Book was pretty good, but I mean, even then, he still wasn't amazing. It's
Right.
been it's been a while, so I'm excited about him, and he looked good in their first opener against Navy. I mean, they spanked them, so that was a good start. But I mean, there's you got to look at what Colorado is doing with all their transfers.
Right.
It Who knows what their team's going to look like this year? They could be very strong, or they could be a complete bust, right? So I think Hartman for me is the most interesting. I think you look at a guy like Travis Hunter, too, wide receiver,
Mm-hmm.
great player. There's been a lot of movement. I think that's something we're seeing more and more. We're going to see even more of it every year now with the amount of NIL money that's available, with the thought of not having to lose eligibility. I mean, that's one of the biggest things of knowing that, hey, if I'm not having a good year and someone else wants me, I can go somewhere else next year.
Right.
It's kind of every year you're a free agent again until you agree to go back, which hadn't been the case. So now it's really it makes it harder on programs to keep their guys, because you want to keep guys happy, but at the
Yeah.
same time, it's important that you're holding a culture of, what's your culture going to be, right? Like, for instance, if some guys, for lack of a better term, being an idiot, maybe it's not legal issues, but just being an idiot, and you need to sit them to send a message, maybe take them out a couple plays. Next thing you know, you could have that worry of, oh, this is a 4-star recruit who could be leaving us. Where a few years ago, you didn't have that. You could kind of lay down the law a little bit more. So it makes it harder on the programs to kind of you got to keep your players happy.
Do you think it'll put more of an emphasis on programs to win? To even put more of an emphasis on being competitive, because players might leave if the team doesn't win as well and look for a better situation?
I'm going to say no. And here's why. Because I think we're seeing more and more that the team concept isn't quite there as much as it used to be.
Right.
Yeah, for some players, but some players just want to get in and get out, and they want to be treated happy, and they want to get treated right, and they want the best opportunity to go to the next level. It's I would say I make myself feel old, 29, but the kids these days don't care about team as much as they used to, and it's hard. Well, I hate to say it, I see it in the hockey side of things too, where buying into a team is tougher and tougher, and there's less and less people that want to do it and want to be a team player. And so to me, yeah, it's important to win, and players want to go where they're going to win, but players, more importantly, want to go to where they're going to play.
Yes.
So I think it's important that teams are very upfront with players about what their playing time is going to be. And it's more important now that they're not lying to players and saying, hey, you're going to get these many reps, and then you blindside them, because if you blindside them, they're gone. So I think you got to be very open and honest with your players going into, each year and throughout the year, and with your recruits coming in, about what your expectations of them are.
One big thing going into this season is the quarterbacks that are gone, around college football. Our guy, DTR, new backup quarterback for the Cleveland Browns. I hope he's a starter soon and Deshaun Watson gets hurt. That's another story for another day. Will Levis is gone from Kentucky. Sean Clifford gone from Penn State. Bryce Young, obviously Alabama. Stetson Bennett, Georgia. Max Duggan at TCU, just to name a few. Going into this, who's got the bigger hole at quarterback for you, Alabama or Georgia?
It's crazy the fact that Bo Nix's name wasn't in there. He's still playing, which is wild that you didn't say him.
I know. Heisman
I
favorite, Bo Nix.
I see that. I mean, he should be. He's been there for 20 years. For me, I don't know. It's interesting because they're both powerhouses, right? And they're both the expectation. I mean, on Georgia, there's expectation to be a three-peat, which we haven't seen in a long, long time. I don't know if we've ever seen it, but I think it
would be the first time since the 60s, I believe.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I thought I saw that. So I mean, there's a lot of pressure on Georgia because they are the favorite too. So
yep.
Yeah, I would say Georgia just because it's crazy to think, but there is a lot of pressure on Georgia this year to three-peat.
Yeah, and I the reason I might say Alabama is because they haven't named a starter yet. And your old Notre Dame guy, Tyler Buckner, is in the mix to be the starter. And watching him last year, I wouldn't think he'd be capable of being a quarterback at Alabama.
I don't think so either, because not for that program and not for, it was a failure of a year for Alabama last year.
Yes.
Let's not forget that they didn't do what
they team, Matt. If they didn't have Bryce Young, they would have lost 2-3 more games.
Yeah, they barely won a couple games. Bryce Young won them a couple games late, but they should have lost.
Yeah,
they shouldn't even have been where they were. So to me, I just don't see I don't see them being. I don't see them they may make the top 12, but they're not in the top 4. To me, Alabama is. I would put Notre Dame right up with Alabama to start the year. I'd actually probably even have Notre Dame. This isn't being biased. I think Notre Dame's a better team than Alabama right now. So we're going to see. I mean, don't get me wrong. Alabama always has running backs. They always have wide receivers. They always have an amazing offensive line. So they're going to be good. And they have a great coach. Nick Saban's an amazing coach too. So they're going to be coached well. They're going to have a good team, but there's a lot of pressure on them. But to me, I don't know why. I still look at Georgia because everyone is saying Georgia's going to win, that they shouldn't even have the year because how good Georgia is. So there's a lot of pressure.
Do you see their schedule too?
Pretty easy. Very easy. Very, very easy schedule. Yeah. So, I think there's really only maybe one scare their whole schedule.
Yeah, they got Tennessee, I think, and that's it, basically.
Tennessee is the only team that, to me, gives them any real thought of losing. But even then, they're better than Tennessee. But that's why I feel like there's so much pressure on the quarterback, because they should steamroll their way through to the playoffs.
Other programs, let's say outside of Alabama and Georgia, is there a program coming into this year that you think is under a lot of pressure to do well and to perform?
I think there's a team that's very, very overrated. There's a lot of pressure on them, and it's LSU.
Ooh,
to me, it's LSU. I think they're overrated, and we're gonna get a great glimpse of that on Sunday night against Florida State. So that, to me, that's a must-win game for both teams to start the year.
Agreed.
And Florida State they almost beat Notre Dame. I think it was 2 years ago on the first week. I don't think it was last year. I think it was 2 years ago.
Yeah, because they won that opening game. Or no, that was who did they lost to LSU last year, or they beat LSU.
Beat LSU.
Yeah, they beat LSU in that walk-off. Yeah.
Yeah. To me, I think LSU is overrated. We're going to find out. They have them ranked very high to start the year. We'll see. Don't get me wrong. I think a lot of the ranking is because of the coach switching over from Notre Dame. To me, a team that has a lot of pressure on them is USC as well. Caleb Williams coming back after winning the Heisman. A lot of pressure there. And they have a good team. Their offense.
He's so good.
He's so good. I have 3 first-round picks in my keeper league for fantasy football, and I'm just hoping I get the first pick so I can take him and for the following year. But he's so good. I'm looking forward to watching him. But there's a lot of pressure on him. There's a lot of pressure on that team this year. Um, but a team to watch that I'm actually very excited to watch is the Big Wave, Tulane. They had a very, very good year last year. They finished off. They had a crazy bowl game win.
Against
They
the
had a
USC.
beat SC, wild game. I'm looking at them to maybe stir the pot a little bit and make some noise. There's a program that no one really talks about that, finished off the year very successful that could continue that. And they're going to have a good team this year.
Yeah, it's a good one. They got Ole Miss, I think, in week 2, which is
Yeah.
if you can beat a team in the SEC early and they're before Ole Miss starts losing games and they're not ranked anymore, that is a big deal for us. Like we see with Cincinnati, you beat one big school, it can really help you in your pursuit of anything, really. I have a little quiz for you. I got some quarterbacks that transferred. I'm going to ask you where you think they are. And this is a fun game because I know you know this stuff, but I think this will be fun. Where is Spencer Sanders playing this season?
Oh, Spencer Sanders.
Who's formerly with Oklahoma State.
Yeah, I was going to say he's with Oklahoma State. He's not with South Carolina, is he?
No, Spencer Rattler is still there.
Rattler
He's still in
still
college.
there. Okay, I was thinking Rattler might have been done and he went in there.
It's in the SEC.
In the SEC?
Yep.
Man, where would he have gone? I don't know.
He's competing for the job at Ole Miss.
Really? Just talked about them.
Yeah,
Okay.
with Jackson Dart. So they're competing for the starting job.
I don't think he's gonna get it.
I don't think so
know
either. I don't know why.
Yeah, I don't think he's gonna get it.
Dylan Gabriel.
Good question. Good question. Would he be with? Give me a conference.
Dylan Gabriel is in the Big 12.
Okay, that's Big 12. Big 12. It's not. I don't even know who's in the Big 12 anymore with all the movement.
So he's at Oklahoma.
Okay. I was going to say Oklahoma State. So, okay.
Here's a fun one. Cade McNamara, former Michigan.
Michigan guy.
Yes.
Yeah, former Michigan guy.
He stayed in the Big 10. And he's on a ranked team to start the year. There's another hint.
Well, it wouldn't be the only ranked teams are Penn State. Did he go to Penn State?
Good guess, but no.
Because there's Penn State's ranked, Ohio State's ranked.
There's another
one. Next would be ranked.
It's a surprising ranked team that you wouldn't think. It's Iowa.
Okay, because Iowa's ranked 24th.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, Iowa's ranked 24th. I was gonna say that because you got Iowa, but wow. Okay. Well, you know what? I mean, I'm maybe they're gonna throw the ball a bit more because
they got to score points for their offensive coordinator to keep his job.
I see their first game. I was looking at some lines earlier today, and it's still 44.5 points, which is so low for a college game to be 44.5 to start the year. But it did seem high to me. I was like, yeah, geez, 44. Normally you'd throw Iowa in at like a 37, 38. So, I mean, giving the quarterback a little love there. But, I mean, he was a decent quarterback in Michigan. Like, they had kind of a dual threat when he was there. They didn't really know who the starter was. I felt like they never really kind of solidified who was number one there. So he will go to Iowa and get to be the number one guy.
Yeah, and they're projected to win like their division and play in the Big Ten title game. So it looks like they have a good team at Iowa. So I'm curious to see what they do, because if they don't score 25 points per game, Ferentz gets fired. So that's their offensive coordinator. That they have to average 25 points per game the entire, which is incredible. That's in the contract.
I think they averaged like less than 20 points a game.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I think it was like something ridiculous, like 17 points a game was like crazy.
How about this one? Peyton Thorne, former Michigan State quarterback.
Yeah, former Michigan State. I mean, it just shows the amount of transferring at the quarterback position that happens. Like, it's just you got to put yourself in an opportunity to play. Now, where would he have gone?
SEC.
Okay. Well, he wouldn't have gone to one of the big names.
Mm-hmm. He's at a pretty big name, but
Would he
not
have gone to
not a ranked
Kentucky?
school.
Would it be Kentucky?
No, it's a good guess. He's at Auburn.
Auburn. Okay. Okay. I got
Yeah.
to do some research on my quarterbacks then because I am 0 for 3 here, 0 for 4.
Here's the last one. You'll get this one. DJ Ugalele.
I don't know if I will get this one. I mean, I can't believe I didn't know he left. So I don't know if you got the right guy on today or not because, oh my God.
This is tough, though. I did this research. I wouldn't know half of these. It's tough.
I didn't know he was gone. So,
he's at a ranked school, and this
Yeah.
team won 10 games last year in our favorite conference, the Pac-12.
Oh, does he play Sunday night at Utah?
No, he plays against Oregon State this week.
Oh, okay.
I know he plays against San Jose State. He's at Oregon State.
I was gonna say, it must be Oregon State.
Yeah, he's at Oregon State.
Well, I mean, Oregon State's a great. We love Oregon State here, but it just shows, like you said, like I obviously haven't done a lot of research on my quarterbacks yet. That being said, this weekend I will be getting into it very heavy. For really, college football doesn't start till tonight. Really,
tonight.
Even last weekend with Notre Dame playing was great to watch, but it wasn't. It didn't feel like they did college game day. It didn't feel like college game day. Like it's kind of just kind of dip your toe in the water last weekend. I know now we're really getting into it starting tonight, which is exciting because there's some good games tonight.
Yeah.
Not necessarily tomorrow. Really tonight, there's a couple good games. The Nebraska game against Minnesota. You have the Nebraska Minnesota's on Fox.
Yeah, Florida Utah on the mothership.
Florida Utah on the mothership. So it'll be nice to have a real college game day on Saturday. But I obviously have to do some research on my quarterbacks. But like you said, it just shows how much movement there is because those are all very good quarterbacks. Like, those are names that people remember from last year. So, I mean, and then you look at some of the quarterbacks that are on the Heisman favorites. There are some really good quarterbacks in there as well. You got Bo Nix, Hartman, Caleb Williams, go on and on. There's some good guys, good quarterbacks in there.
Speaking of Heisman, if you're a bettor, you like to gamble like I do. If you're telling people what's a good bet to make going into this year, if you want to hedge, if you want to make a Heisman bet, if you want to make a future, where are you putting your money?
Oh, man. I think you have to look whatever team you think is going to have a big offense. Number one, they have to score points. So winning games doesn't mean everything. They have to put up points, right? We saw that with the Heisman last year, right? Where USC lost games, but because they put up their offense was just people talked about how good their offense is. And the other thing that actually helps too of the Heisman winner is when their defense isn't that great.
Right, because you have to score
a lot of points. Has to be the focus. So I think you want to, if you're going to pick someone where you think the offense is way more important than the defense on that team, because you don't want the defense to outshine the offense, because then they're not going to care about the offense. You need a team like USC, whose defense was, excuse my language, terrible last year.
Yeah.
You need the offense to be in the spotlight of people watching, saying, oh, they need to score points to win games. So could Bo Nix at Oregon be the guy?
He could.
He could. I mean, they're going to end up losing the game that they should win early in the year, so it'll probably knock him out of the way early.
Bo Nix special.
Now, Ohio State's going to have a really good offense this year. They always do, but I think even this year, their offense may be the best offense in the country, them or USC.
Right.
But
see, is Kyle McCord more likely to win it as a first-year starter, or is Marvin Harrison Jr. likely the best receiver and maybe the second best player in college football more likely to win the Heisman?
Well, they both have the same odds now. They're identical, a plus 2,500, both of them. And I mean, Harrison Jr., he has the name too, right? Yes. He has the name there, which definitely helps. Awesome receiver. He's going to be fun to watch. Their offense is going to be so fun to watch. But that being said, it sometimes hurts a quarterback when you have a guy who's wide receivers so good. I mean, we saw that when our boy playing Devonta Smith in Philadelphia won. You
Yeah.
know, you
Yep.
could have argued that it could have went to the quarterback. So I think it benefits Marvin Harrison Jr. over the quarterback.
Right.
I think it benefits the receiver more than the quarterback. I still think it's Caleb Williams' trophy to lose.
Yep.
Again, I think the Heisman runs through him to start the year.
I like Penix Jr. plus 1,600.
Yep. Yep. That's I don't hate that either. I don't hate that. I mean, he plays for Washington. There's not going to be, it's hard to say what the focus on Washington will be this year with everything that's happening in the movements in the conferences for the following. I just don't know how much. It's hard when you're out west too, when you're not USC. Like
Right.
I don't know how much love he's going to get. That being said, you have to win. A team like that has to win football games.
Yep.
So it's so important for them to go as close to undefeated as possible for him to get any chance at being looked at.
Are you surprised Quinn Ewers has the second best odds? Because I am.
Yeah, I
Some
think
hype
there's a
there.
lot of I think there's a lot of people that want Texas to win their conference this year.
Right.
And I think that it seems even more this year where they're like, Texas actually is going to have a pretty good team this year, too.
Should.
So
Yeah.
they should. They always lose the game. They should win, though. It always happens. But a lot of just hearing a lot of people talking, there's a lot of love around Texas this year. So I think if Texas does well, he's going to be in the mix of the Heisman for sure, because it's been a long time that Texas has been relevant. And last year they were actually a little bit relevant for a span. And
Yep.
this year they should be very relevant. So if they are relevant, he's going to get some love for sure. I mean, it's Texas, right? Everything's bigger in Texas. College football is better when Texas is good. So people want to see that.
Does Arch Manning start a game this year?
Absolutely, he does. 100%. They find a way to get him a game, whether it's because of injury, whether it's because they're resting someone, whether it's that guy will find a way to get a game in this year. I don't know where it is. It could even be a meaningless bowl game if they have a tough year.
Right.
But
Good point.
it could be a game where they have an underwhelming year and he gets in. But I think he's getting in at some point. Maybe not to start. He's going to get some minutes, maybe not to start, but I do think he starts a game this year somewhere along the line. I mean, but if he does, that's not good for their university. Like they don't want him starting this year.
No,
Like
because what they want is to win, and then
Mhm.
Quinn Ewers to go top 5 in the NFL draft, boost
Yeah.
your stock, and then you have Arch Manning come in and you get him go top 5 in the next couple of years after that. Your program is really starting to take shape if that happens. You're the new Oklahoma.
Oh, and then that's what they need. That's what they've been wanting for a long time.
Yeah.
But for some reason, I just feel like he's getting in a game, whether or not he should be, whether or not it's the right thing to do, whether or not it's by accident and someone gets hurt, whether or not it's a meaningless bowl game. I think he's getting in a game.
So let's go through the conferences as they are right now, because as we talked about, they're changing. Let's kind of predict the winner for each conference. So let's start in the Big 12. Who do you like winning the Big 12?
And maybe it's just we just talked about it, but I feel like it's got to be Texas. I think it's going to be an ups. I think Texas is going to find a way to win the Big 12. I think they have to win the Big 12 this year. I think that there's so much pressure on the program to win the Big 12 this year, and they're due to win one because it's been a while. Like we said, they have a good quarterback who should be in the mix for the Heisman especially if they do win the Big 12. He may win the Heisman if they win the Big 12.
Right.
But I'm going to go Texas.
Yeah, I think TCU is obviously going to be worse than they were last year.
Mhm.
And I don't trust Oklahoma.
No, I don't
And
either.
I think their coach is on the hot seat. I don't know if he gets through the year, especially if they're transferring to the SEC. I think they'll want a fresh face and they'll want an offensive-minded coach. Oklahoma State, kind of in a state of transition, so I can't really look at them. I'm going to go with you. And I hate doing this because Texas always disappoints,
Yeah.
but I'm going to go with Texas as well. They got a good team. This is my spicy take. I think they should be the favorite in week 2 against Alabama, and I think it's borderline catastrophic if they lose that game. They should win that. They're at home. They need to go win that game.
100%. We're going to know a lot about Texas after week 2. And honestly, one of the best weeks of college football is always week 2.
Yes.
Because there's always some great matchups on week 2. Like, I'm surprised Sunday night we're getting the matchup we are between LSU and Florida State.
Awesome game.
I love that that's on a Sunday night. It's going to finish off the weekend so great. Little hungover just coming to from a hangover on the couch. I can't wait. But
North Carolina, South Carolina ain't bad either.
That's it. Oh, it's going to be great. But to me, like you said, it's got with TCU losing Duggan, the step back there, you just can't trust Oklahoma. It has to be Texas.
SEC.
Well, I mean, if it isn't Georgia, just a massive, massive failure. Even if they don't win the SEC, it's a failure on Georgia.
Yeah,
I have to take Georgia just because going into the year they are the best team in college football.
They are. Their schedule is so easy, and Kirby Smart is becoming the new Nick Saban. Like, he knows what he's doing. He's recruiting well. They're a school. We talked about culture earlier. They have one there. They buy in. They're ready to go. Brock Bowers, best tight end in the country. They still got some good players. I look at it and I think, Ryder, because you get Alabama on one side, and obviously Alabama plays in the West, Georgia plays in the East. Is this the year that I know you said they're overrated, but does LSU win the West and play Georgia in the SEC championship game, usurping Alabama?
Well, ask me Sunday night at midnight, because they have to win Sunday if they want. And that's what's exciting about college football is every game matters so much.
Right.
And to me, if they want to be in that mix, they have to start the season off with a win Sunday night. Don't get me wrong. It's like I said, I think they're overrated, but that being said, doesn't mean they're not a good team. And they can definitely, I've been wrong on this show many, many times. So they very well could, but we'll see. Back to your point though on Georgia, for anyone who watches college football or doesn't watch it too much, happens to be on, watch that Brock Bowers at tight end. He's exciting to watch. He's a hell of a football player. I'm curious to see if his game translates to the NFL. I think it will, but he's just such a workhorse out there.
Yeah, he does everything, and he doesn't even look like a tight end. He just does everything well. It's really incredible what this guy can do. Let's see. Let's go to the Big Ten.
Well, I mean, I feel like it's normally people would say it's a 2-pony race. I think it could be a 3-pony race this year, potentially even 4, like you said with Iowa. To me, I look at Michigan, I look at Ohio State, and I look at Penn State as all teams that could beat each other throughout the year and all finish 11-1.
Right.
Very, very plausible that could happen. I mean, Penn State, I feel like they can never win the big game. Like, I don't know. I just get that feeling that they always can't win the big game. So to me, it's down to those 3. I think it's going to be it's tough. This one to me, I kind of went back and forth on it. I'm leaning Ohio State just because I think their offense is so good that I just think their offense is just a little bit better. But it's a Michigan and Penn State are right there. And like I said, Iowa we'll see if they can score points. But to me, I think it's Ohio State, but it could be Michigan or Penn State either.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I'm going to go with Michigan, but like you said, it could go either way. I just think J.J. McCarthy's returning, and he played really well down the stretch last year.
Yep,
they they booed against TCU, but that was more about coaching and decisions than it was JJ McCarthy. They're bringing their two running backs back this year.
Yep.
Similar offensive line, a good defense. Harbaugh suspended himself for the first 3 games when they play the MAC and whoever else.
I don't think that doesn't factor in at all. They're
No.
winning those games.
UNLV and East Carolina, whoever they play there. But I just think the way they play against Ohio State struggles to stop the run normally in those games, and that kind of kills them.
No, they do.
And Michigan's just a physical football. That's how Harbaugh recruits. He recruits physical football players. And I think they're right there with Georgia as one of the best teams in the country to start out the year.
Yeah, like I said, I would not be surprised at all if Michigan wins that. Like I said, to me, it's between Ohio State and Michigan, and if Ohio State can get a stop,
Right.
and it could be one of those things where it's they're playing each other in the championship game, and it's whoever has the ball last wins, kind of thing.
Atlantic Coast Conference, the ACC.
Well, normally we get on here and it's pretty safe to say Clemson.
Yeah.
I don't think that's the case because I think there's going to be an upset on Sunday night, and I think we're going to see Florida State win the ACC.
Wow. Jordan Travis.
I think we're going to see Florida State. And like I said, this podcast could go off the rails here on Sunday night at midnight. You may not be seeing me for a while after this.
Right.
Had some spicy takes on this Sunday night. But I think Florida State is going to win this conference. I do. I think that Clemson is still good, but they're not where they have been. Mm-hmm. They need another year to kind of build it back up to where it was. And I think Florida State is ready to take the step. I'm on Florida State.
I think Florida State's going to be one of the funnest teams to watch all year because Jordan Travis is so much fun to watch.
I mean, he's third right now and for Heisman voting already to start the year. So he's someone you have to watch. And it's gonna. You hate to say it's gonna rely on him if they're gonna win this conference. But they're gonna be fun to watch. That's for sure. And I like teams that are fun to watch.
I'm going to take another shot in the dark like you. I'm not going to take Clemson, but I'm not going to take Florida State either. I'm going to take North Carolina.
Okay.
And I don't have a whole lot of faith in the pick either, but I like Drake May.
There's another guy who's in the mix.
Yeah, he's got good receivers. I think NC State's a pretty good team too that people don't really talk about. That's been good for a couple of years, that program.
There's been great games between NC State and North Carolina in the last couple of years.
Yeah, all bangers. And like I said, North Carolina, South Carolina, Saturday night, neutral site. That's a fun game.
Yeah. Can they get a stop, though? Like, can they play any defense?
I know.
You're putting this pick in, but that all relies on the fact that they can stop the other team from scoring points.
It'll probably be Clemson. We'll both be wrong, but we just don't want to pick Clemson because...
No, I get no interest in picking Clemson. But... But it's nice that this year in the ACC there are some really good teams. There's a lot of different teams that can win.
Yes, I agree. Let's go to our favorite, the Pac-12. I think it's the best conference in college football. Myself, I think it's loaded.
For now,
for this year, but this year only. But the quarterbacks in this conference, it's unbelievable.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, it is, but. It's going to be hard not to look past USC to win this conference. Just with you got your reigning Heisman Trophy winner, you have a team that is expected to win the conference. That being said, it is loaded with Washington, with
Oregon,
with Washington, and Washington State can always surprise someone. Like
Oregon State too.
Yeah, they're Oregon State. Like there's and is Colorado in it this year or have they moved?
No, they're in. Yeah,
they're in for this year, and then they move for next year.
Correct. Yep.
There's another absolute mystery of a team too. Yep. So for at least one more year, 11 p.m. on Saturday nights is going to be very interesting.
Pivot away for a second because I'll make my pick. But looking at this, I was also looking at this weekend's games for lines I'll talk about tomorrow on the pod. But Colorado's a big dog against TCU, and it's week one. I think it's over 20 points, or it's close to a 20-point spread.
20. I thought I saw some books at 22, 23
Yeah,
points.
I like Colorado to cover.
Could it even be a Colorado to win
I know.
potentially?
I kind of thought that too,
You
but
have that much cojones to make that move? Is that something where, because to me, I think it's an easy, not easy pick, but I would definitely taking them to cover. I think
yes,
20 points is ridiculous for a team that is going to have a lot of they're going to have a lot of piss and vinegar in them to start this year. There's a lot of eyes going to be on them, and they know they need to go out and play good in week one. Like
they're
they
playing. They're playing Big Noon Saturday on Fox. Plus,
yeah,
TCU's got a lot of changes. They're basically, it's a whole new team. Why are they so great?
yeah, I may do both. I may take a parlay ticket with them to cover, but I may also throw, $10 on them just to win outright head to
Right,
head
right.
because, you know, I to me that's a pick 'em more or less than it is a TCU that much of a favorite.
Like you, I really like USC because of Caleb Williams and everything you just laid out. I love Washington because I love Kalen DeBoer, the way he runs his offense. Penix Jr. to me is going to be a higher pick than initially slotted right now in mock drafts. Utah not having Cam Rising tonight
Yeah,
sucks for
yeah,
them against Florida. They might still win that game, however, because it's Utah.
yeah. But
And
they
then,
lost. They lost. Remember last year they lost in week one for us. We were
yeah,
so high on them, and they let us down week
they
one.
still won. They still won the Pac-12 though.
I know, but I know they did. It's wild, but
Do you know who Florida's new quarterback is?
I don't know.
Graham Mertz from Wisconsin.
Okay,
Yeah,
yeah.
he's down there in the Bayou.
But there's a team. Florida just I don't know, and I don't know if you watched that documentary. It was terrible.
It was
The one
brutal. I
it
watched
was
one
all,
episode and I said, "Screw this."
what a waste of time that was. I
Yeah,
mean, they didn't even get into any of what they should have talked about, which
yeah.
was all the
The
criminals they had on their team, and they didn't talk about it.
all 41 of them.
It was just it was more Urban Meyer love. I couldn't believe it.
Nah,
But Florida's a
horrible.
team that I don't know. I don't see them winning in this game. They always find a way to make games close though,
Yep.
but they never win them. So I do think Utah still wins the game tonight.
Yeah, I agree. Even without Cam Rising, I think they'll find a way to grit that out.
Utah's got a good defense.
Yes. American Athletic. I assume you're going with Tulane.
I am. Well, like I said, talked about them earlier.
Yeah.
To me, they're a surprise team that I think is going to be not a surprise to me because like I watched them a lot last year and
Yeah.
and they finished the year very strong. But they're going to surprise a lot of people this year. I think people just don't focus on them because they've been so irrelevant for so long. They have some of the best jerseys in college football. I love their helmets.
Yeah, they're
Um,
great. Yeah.
I love it. But I do think they're going to win that conference. I think they're going to have a big week 2 win over Ole Miss. We talked about, and yeah, I got Tulane.
We just talked about Dion a little bit. Other first-year quarterbacks more interesting, or who's going to turn it around quicker in your mind? Luke Fickell at Wisconsin or Matt Rule at Nebraska?
Oh, oh. I mean, both programs that have really taken a dive from when I started watching college football
Yep.
to both programs that have crazy fan bases that love college football, that universities really focus on college football. Except I don't know if you saw the
The
Nebraska.
women's volleyball?
That was incredible. Good
That's
for them.
awesome. That's awesome.
That was
Yep.
awesome to see. 92,000 people. That's just wild to play ball. Like that's amazing. Great for them. But it shows the passion
Yep.
that those fan bases have for college athletics.
That's all they
And
have.
that's all they have, right? It's people don't vacation in Wisconsin and Nebraska. You
Nope.
know, they just don't. So I've never been there, so I'm sure they're two beautiful places.
No,
But
you're right on that opinion. I've been there either, but you're safe
but
to say that.
I think a lot will depend on strength of schedule. I think that
Nebraska, Colorado, week 2.
yeah, I think I don't know. Wisconsin's always had a pretty good defense. So if
Yep.
they can just find a way to score any points, they should do okay. Nebraska is. Do you just feel like Nebraska is going to have still struggle? I don't know. I don't have any faith in them at all. And
Yeah,
they've
like
all
Matt
lost on.
Rule. Matt Rule turned around programs, but it's not like he ever got them to elite status. Like he did a good job at Temple, he did a good job at Baylor, but it's not like he got them to the playoff or anything. You know what I mean? So I think he's a good coach, but he'll only get you so far.
Yeah, I don't see either team being a massive turnaround this year. I think I have a little more faith in Wisconsin. That being said, I would like to see Nebraska get back. I'd like to see them both get back to where they were, because I used to love watching Wisconsin against Notre Dame when I was a kid. Those were great games. Wisconsin had, arguably one of the best teams in the country for a span there. They were really good. I think Wisconsin will be a little better, a little quicker turnaround, but I hope both teams do turn around.
Yeah, even like Nebraska, Oklahoma, that used to be a legitimate rivalry. Now it's a joke when those two teams play each other. And Oklahoma's not even that good, but they'll still beat Nebraska by 30 points.
Yeah, Nebraska's just, I feel, has fallen. I feel like Nebraska's fallen down further than Wisconsin has.
Yeah, and I think it's hard to recruit there. It has to be, I think you have to really.
You have to get there. It's just one. It's like Winnipeg in the NHL.
Yeah.
Like it's just a harder spot to recruit. Bring in free agents.
You need to get some boosters in the game now and get some people down there that are willing to spend money and probably spend more money than they should to make sure you get some decent players to come to your program.
100%.
But Wisconsin's got at Minnesota tonight. So that's an interesting measuring stick, because it's not as if Minnesota is a really tough program. And on a given year, Wisconsin on the road or at home should have the ability to win that game.
Now, are you rowing the boat tonight, or are you on Wisconsin?
Oh, PJ Flex under some hot water at Minnesota, so he's dodging those.
I don't know if I want to hop on that boat, man. That boat might be sinking.
Yeah, I think it is sinking. No more Tanner Morgan, the bald guy who looked like he was 30 but was only 23. So he was at an NFL camp. I wouldn't mind taking Wisconsin tonight plus money. I don't think that's a bad bet.
I think it'll be an entertaining game.
Yep. Both games tonight are good. I don't care what's on TV. I'm going to watch it.
I just love the fact that it's a Thursday night and we have some college football to watch. Yes. Don't you?
It's the best.
Don't get me wrong. I love going to watch MLB games, but we're in the dog days of the MLB. Like there's still the playoff race is just starting, but to me, it's that's the only thing you could watch. You could watch some golf. I was watching a bit of golf there, which was nice, but man, when you get to me, what you get into this time of year when football starts to come back, and then you got NHL camp starting up, you got NBA starting up. We're really getting into sports season here coming up, and it really does kick off tonight and this weekend.
Yes, 100%. And we got NFL kicking off a week from tonight, so we're right on the horizon. Last season of the 4-team playoff before we expand next year to 12. Ryder, let's get to our picks. Who are the 4 teams that are going to be playing for the national championship?
Oh, okay. Georgia.
Yep.
Texas.
Ooh, Texas. Spicy. I like it.
Georgia, Texas. Man, I'm kind of thinking Michigan over Ohio State now. Can I say one of the two of Michigan or Ohio State? One of those two is going to be in.
Okay.
I want to say USC, but I can't, because I think that, like you said, I think the Pac-12 is really good, and I think they beat up on each other a little bit out there. Right. So I think if it's 12 teams, you could see a bunch of Pac-12 teams in.
I think there'd be 3 or 4.
Which sucks because they're all leaving. It's just, but Georgia, Texas. Ohio State and Florida State. Let's do it. Let's go.
Okay. All right.
Those are my 4.
Okay. So this is difficult because, like you, I like all the teams in the Pac-12, but I think all those teams could have 2 losses by the end
Yeah,
of the year.
that's why I can't. That's why I can't put one in.
Same with the ACC. I look around and go, well, maybe Clemson runs the table, but you didn't pick them. I didn't pick them, so I'm not picking to be in my Final Four because that's being a hypocrite. I got Georgia and I got Michigan. Those 2 are easy locks for me. I got them locked in. The Big 12, I can't pick Texas because I don't trust them, and I'm not getting burned by them again. So screw Texas.
See, I'm so burned that I don't even feel the fire anymore, buddy. I've been cooking on that barbecue for years.
I'd love to put in Tulane, but I don't think that.
I don't
Maybe
think
they would after Cincinnati and TCU, but I don't think they'd put them in.
No, I don't know. That's why, like I said, I love Tulane. I had them winning the conference. I don't see them getting in.
I'm tempted to pick your team, but they have a tough schedule.
Yeah, I didn't pick them. Like, I didn't pick Notre Dame because their schedule.
I agree with you that I think Notre Dame's a good team. Wouldn't surprise me if they're ranked in the top 10 by the end of the year, when it's over. I think they're really good. Their offensive line is great. They got some good running backs. They got a quarterback who's seen it all. Mm-hmm. So I'm tempted to say Notre Dame, but they got to play SC, and they got to play Clemson.
Yeah.
And they got another really tough game in there that I'm missing one, but they got one at the end of the year. Oh, they got Ohio State in September.
They got Ohio State.
Yeah, that's what it is. So
yeah, that's why I didn't put them in, is because and trust me, I want them in. Like I'm not picking them because I don't want to put that jinx on them to start the year, the Matt Wright curse. I don't want to mush them to start the year.
I want to say Utah, but I think they're going to lose. Somehow they'll lose tonight, and they'll have too many losses. They'll win the Big 12, but not make it in.
So you got Georgia and Michigan.
Yeah, I know. Now the rest is the problem. They love the SEC. These people. They love the SEC.
So do you go Alabama?
No, I'll go LSU.
Oh my God. Okay. Well, one of us is going to be wrong because they're both like Florida State and LSU are playing on Sunday night. So
I know, and I think LSU is going to win that game.
Well, I think you're drunk. So we'll see.
So I'm going to go Georgia, Michigan, LSU. Who else? Screw it, Washington.
Okay, I like it. I like that. I think it's, like I said, for me, that's Texas, Washington. I mean, Florida State. I hate saying Georgia, Michigan, Ohio State. Like, to me, I hate just going Georgia, Michigan, Ohio State, and Alabama. Yeah, like, I'm not going to be that. I don't want that. You don't want that. Like,
no.
But it's hard not to. If Georgia's not there, I think 99.9% of people in the country is going to be very surprised.
If your team beats Ohio State and say they lose to SC later in the year, they'll be in with one loss.
Listen, one thing about Notre Dame, we know they want to get them into. Like, I'm not an idiot on that. Like, there's people like Notre Dame. The problem with Notre Dame is they just haven't played good when they get to the top 4. They've got smoked. Like, they need to, they got to the national championship, got smoked.
Yeah.
And then since the time they've been into the top 4, smoked. So to me, they have to go maybe one loss to get in. 2 losses, definitely not. 1 loss, you might see them get in.
Because the USC game is in South Bend.
Yeah.
So that's an advantage for them. And they do have a good team.
I would love to go to that game. I mean, I'm not going to, but I would love to go to that game.
That would be a lot of fun to go to that game. But yeah, they definitely could. They're my wild card team at this point.
I love the fact that you are liking Notre Dame. It's been a long time since I've been on this podcast where you've liked Notre Dame.
I like their team. I think they built a good one, and I've always liked Marcus Freeman. So I like him. Yeah, he's a good coach. He's a nice guy. I don't think he's like a dick of a coach either, which I like. He's not like old school. Like,
let's not forget, last week they laid a pounding on Navy. Like,
Yeah.
that game was over 5 minutes into the game. It was 14-0.
Yeah.
Like, and I know Navy's not a, not the toughest opponent, but they still are a decent football team. And they spanked them.
Yeah. They need to gear up for the Ohio State game. That's a big I think it's week 4. You got to win that game. Find a
Yeah.
way to win that one, and they'll be in the top 4 that ranking that week, 100%, if they beat Ohio State. But yeah, I feel good about them. National champion, Georgia, 3-peat.
Oh man, so if they're I think it's hard not to pick them. I really do like looking at it's like I said, I think Texas and Florida State get in. I don't think they're beating Georgia or either Michigan or
Ohio
Ohio
State.
State.
Yeah.
So I think it's probably as cookie cutter as it is. I do think they probably win.
Yeah, you can get Michigan's got the 4th best odds. The fact that they have worse odds than Alabama to me is just stupid.
Oh,
But
that's just so Nick Saban coaching Alabama. That's all
yeah,
that is.
I would if you like me, I like Michigan. I think you maybe if they go 1 loss, they'll get in too. Michigan.
Yeah.
If they're
Oh yeah.
only losses to Ohio State and they beat Penn State, another top 10 ranked team, they'll be in even with 1 loss, like they were, like Ohio State was last year.
Yeah,
So
Ohio State got in with 1 loss last year.
so if that happens, they'll be in. I don't mind taking them at plus 800 because I think they'll at least be in the tournament. And you're one of 4 teams, you have a 25% chance.
Yeah, no, like I said, they're good. It's hard not to pick Georgia. Like I don't want to pick Georgia. Like I like looking at a team from the outside, but from all things considered, it is hard to not to pick Georgia to win the national championship.
Let me throw this at you. Notre Dame gets in, you get your redemption. Notre Dame versus LSU in the 2 versus 3 game. How would you feel about that?
Oh,
Playing Brian Kelly.
oh my God, I would love that. I mean, I would just love the fact that it's not going to happen because LSU is not getting in because Florida State's getting in. So let's just get that straight right
Sure
away.
they are. Sure they
Let's
are.
get that. Let's get that straight right away.
Right.
But I would love to see that happen. That would be an incredible matchup. It would just make for a great television.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a fun college football season. Starts up tonight. Can't wait. Before I get you out of here, I got a few more questions for you. Are you drinking the Bill Simmons Kool-Aid? Are the Patriots going to win the AFC East?
No. They're not, man. They got one quarterback on the roster right now. Like they're don't get me wrong. I've liked what they've done this offseason. I actually really like bringing in Ezekiel Elliott.
I do too.
Just because it's going to give Stevenson a little bit of break. It's going to rest him a little bit. And Ezekiel Elliott is still a decent running back. I mean, he's not going to be the running back he was 5 years ago, but he still is going to be a guy who can move the ball a little bit, at least at the goal line stance.
And he can help that offensive line.
Exactly. Help the offensive line. And the Patriots struggle to score in the red zone. He may help that. I think Mac Jones is going to take us. Like I said, I still don't know if he's the guy. I never really know. He kind of has to be now as the only quarterback. But no, they're not winning the division. Like, come on now. Don't be crazy. I think the Patriots are a team that's in the mix for the playoffs again. I think they're trying to get in. I have them, fighting for one of the last spots to get in.
Do they finish last in the division?
Oh. Is it weird, crazy to say that they could finish last in the division but still have a chance to get into the playoffs?
No, because they could be like 8-9.
I think that division is going to be
tough.
Probably the best division in football this year.
Yeah, one of the best for sure.
NFC
East is also tough.
Yeah, I don't know. It's going to be it's going to be tough for them. They never play well in Miami, so they always struggle down there. They seem to play the Bills pretty well, which is surprising to say. It's going to be tough for them. It's going to be hard to win football games. They're going to be an underdog most nights they play.
Right.
In at least in their own division, they are. A lot of it, they'll have to win games outside their division.
Yep.
So I definitely don't have them winning the division. I have them fighting for that 7 seed.
Right. Are your Blue Jays going to make the playoffs?
Oh man, it kills me to say this, but I don't think they are. I just they're 2.5 back right now. Texas is on a hell of a slide. I
Yep.
don't see it continuing. I don't. They need it to for the Jays to get in because Seattle is on fire right now.
Yep. Yep.
And like they're not catching Tampa Bay or Baltimore.
No, that's gone.
So it's really up to and I think the Red Sox are kind of working their way out of it. So I'd say it's really between Seattle, who is on a roll, and then Houston is right there too, Texas and the Jays. The only good thing the Jays have going for them is Texas and Houston and Seattle all have to play each other a bunch towards the end of the year.
Yep.
So that does help the Jays. And they have a really soft schedule over the next 10 days that they have to win games. But they've just been so inconsistent this year. And they're just, I don't know. It just feels like they're going to miss by like a game. I don't know. I hope they don't. I hope they get in, obviously. But my sister was just up there last weekend and watched them beat Cleveland. She had a great time at that game. But I don't know, Jug. I don't know. I just don't have a great feeling about it.
Do you find them fun to watch? Because I don't.
No, not this year, man. Like Davis Schneider's been that's been a good story. That's been
Right.
cool. Give the Mario when he gets hit. But woohoo! But they're not like they still kind of play the same baseball they've played.
Yeah. They don't steal bases enough. Like they just.
I saw a stat the other day. You got me on a rant here. I saw a stat the other day, and it was Abrams off Washington. They were playing Washington. He just stole his 36th base of the year. And I was like, wow, 36 bases. That's a lot. Like, that's more than any Jays player has had in a long time. And then they say he's sixth in the American League in steals. The Jays haven't had someone steal 30 bases since I was a kid. And now they can't. This guy he's sixth in the American League. And he's got 36 steals. I would love to see what the Jays' leader in stolen bases is.
It's probably Whit Merrifield, now that I think about it.
Yeah, Kiermaier is 12. I think it might be Whit Merrifield, but like they don't steal bases, like you said. Like, and the fact that I thought 36 bases was a lot, because like I was like, wow, that's a lot of bases. Mm-hmm. It really isn't. That guy's sixth in the American League. So like they don't create offense if they're not hitting the long ball. Like they're just so station to station. It's just they're not. I don't know. It's frustrating as a fan to continue to watch the same thing over and over again. Doesn't matter who the manager is.
No, it's the same team. Same. Are you in on the US Open yet? You dive in? Do you like the
Not
US
yet.
Open?
I haven't yet. I watch Alcatraz every chance I don't know if I say that right. I watch him every chance I get.
Yeah.
He's very fun to watch. He is, I would say, the combination of Federer, Nadal, and Djokovic kind of all mixed into one. It's one. He's going to win a lot of majors here because Djokovic is almost done and Federer's done and Nadal's basically done. Like they're all done. So he's going to win a lot of majors over the next 20 years. But I haven't got into it. I know a bunch of the Canadians have lost. I've heard that.
We're all out. Yeah.
All out, which sucks. Like it's frustrating. So I haven't, I'll probably get into that a little bit more next week here, but haven't really focused on it too much.
Yeah, no, it's a 2-week grind. The first couple days are just you want to.
I was into the golf quite a bit. I liked I was because there wasn't really much on TV to watch, so I really got into golf. What are your thoughts on the Ryder Cup picks? Go for Keegan Bradley, man, and Cam Young. Like you go 9th in the points and you still don't get in.
Glover too.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think Lucas Glover was ever in the mix, even though like I don't see. He got hot. Good for him, man. He made a lot of money and he found
Justin Thomas sucked this year. I understand why they picked him because it's an old boys club and they got him in
Yeah.
there. The Spieth one, I don't think he should just be an automatic entry. Jordan Spieth's a snap show. He wasn't all that good down the stretch. I think Keegan Bradley is a better golfer than Jordan Spieth on a given day. Now I know Jordan Spieth's won majors, but it's been a minute since he's won one. I would have taken Keegan Bradley over Jordan Spieth. That was my real hot take of it all, more than
Yeah.
Justin Thomas making it.
I found the Sam Burns a little bit
Yeah, that's another
questionable.
one. Yeah,
Like to me, I don't know. To me, there's always someone who gets screwed in these every year. You know, you're picking an Olympic team for Canada. There's someone who gets left off. There's always someone that gets left off.
yeah.
I did feel bad for Keegan Bradley because he did have a good year. He was in the
And you could
mix.
tell he really wanted to go.
Yeah, and you could tell he wanted to be there.
Yeah.
So, I mean, some of these guys, Justin Thomas better play well over there.
Mhm.
You know, like they have to, and they're in tough because they're going to overseas where they haven't won in 30 years. And if you look at Europe, man, Europe has like everyone's like, oh, USA's team's better. USA might be a little deeper, but 1-8, Europe is better. Like you got Rory McIlroy, John Rahm, Tyrrell Hatton, Victor Hovland, who just won. Like, they got some players over there this year.
And they're only getting better. Like that Ludwig.
Aberg
from Sweden. That dude's going to be a killer. He can putt the best of them. My God. So I agree with you. I think in a little bit, it's just like Canada with hockey. You look around, the United States Olympic team might be a little better than Canada's. Like just maybe do that little experiment sometimes. I might have did it a couple weeks ago, and I'm like, well, are we winning this gold medal? So, but no, I know you got to run. I appreciate the time today. As always, great catching up, and we'll do it again throughout the football seasons.
Yeah, buddy, I'm sure we'll be talking. And I just want to say thank you to your sister for everything she did for Champions Hockey. Ran an awesome girls camp for us this summer. It was great. And I know she's off tomorrow to fly overseas. So best of luck to her. And I'm sure we'll be on to talk some football. And I'm sure Sunday night we'll be sending some texts back and forth here. So let's go Notre Dame. And I guess I'm on Florida State this year. So go Florida State.
Good luck to your Seminoles.
Thanks, buddy. See you later.
Right. See you later. That's Matt Wright. Thank you to Ryder for joining us today. Always a pleasure with him. Always fun. Great to catch up. College football is important to the both of us. So to get back into the swing of things, Florida and Utah tonight, Nebraska and Minnesota. We have games tomorrow, all day Saturday. As Ryder mentioned, LSU, Florida State, the feature game on Sunday evening. Even got Clemson, Duke on Monday to go into the Labor Day long weekend. So it's chef's kiss in my world. So that's the college football preview show. Still got 2 more divisional previews in the NFL to come before the start of next season. We got a quarterbacks list that I'll release upcoming, and more content to preview the weekend, what's coming up in this weekend in sports. Tomorrow with college football lines, the betting show on a Friday like we did last year in the college and NFL seasons, and UFC Paris. We got some news out of Major League Baseball, a big signing in the NFL from the Minnesota Vikings. So we'll have lots to discuss tomorrow. So hope you enjoyed this. Hope you guys can get into college football like Ryder and I, maybe not as passionate or as crazy, but join in on the fun. So enjoy the rest of your Thursday. We'll talk to you tomorrow. This is To The Point.